Welcome to the very first episode of Football Fridays with Chris Harris Jr. and myself, Brandon Krisztal. It's going to be fun. Every Friday, we'll get you ready for the Broncos game and all the other action across the NFL and some college football, but we're going to be focused on the Broncos. So let's have some fun on this Football Friday. There he is.
Yes, sir.
The underdog himself.
Let's get it.
The inventor of the no-fly zone. The creator of the no-fly zone nickname. I know that's be a point of contention. We're gonna worry about that at another time when Talib wants to stand and fight with you on it, or TJ or anybody else that wants to stake their claim. But this has been a minute, Chris, since you and I have done a show. But there was a stretch there for a few years where we talked every Friday, getting ready for Broncos games. Right. When I was doing pregame show on KOA, and you were there, and even going all the way back to I'd have you on when you came in as an undrafted guy. So this is fun to renew this. How's your Football Friday going so far?
Man, it's going good, man. You know, I'm in Texas right now, you know, the mecca of high school football tonight. You know, I got a lot of dogs out here that I work with ready to ball out tonight. So I'm excited for those kids. But, man, we got a lot of big games coming this week, a lot of great matchups with the Colts and the Broncos. That's going to be a good game. And then also we can look back on last week's – look back on a couple plays from last week, you know, that I want to tie in, especially highlight Riley Moss, the way that he played.
Yeah, we're going to go into the film room here in just a little bit, but let's start there with last week. And obviously it wasn't – let's start on the offensive side of the ball because we know how good the defense is, and we'll get to that. But the offense clearly left something to be desired. I want to throw a theory at you that I heard, that because Cam Ward is a rookie QB, and we know, and this is the number for you, since 2020, I got to give Nick Kosmider from The Athletic credit. He went and looked it up going into the game. Rookie QB, their first start on the road, if that's their first career start. And that may not be week 1, but it was for Bo Nix last year. It was for Cam Ward. It may come in week 6 or week 7, but almost rarely do they, unless an injury, do they want to start a rookie QB on the road unless it's a week 1. Rookie QBs were 2-19. Cam Ward with the loss, 2-20 going back to 2020, including Bo Nix, of course. So we knew that it was going to be a struggle. And the theory is that Sean Payton may have tried a few more things, not worrying about that the Titans were going to run away with the game. And that's part of the reason the offense struggled. So let's start there. Do you think there's any credence to Sean was trying some stuff, knowing he had a bigger margin for error?
No, I think Sean Payton, you know, he goes in the game every week trying to put up 40. Right. I think that's just his mentality and his competitive nature of who he is. And, you know, every time he goes out, he wants to put on a good showing, especially on the offensive side of the ball. He would much rather have a great offensive showing and a bad defensive showing than they win the game. Right. He doesn't want a showing like that. But a win is a win in the NFL. They're hard to get. And you got to give respect to Cam Ward. He came out there and he threw solid. Of course, he had his rookie mistakes, but I mean, he's going to be a top 15, top 10 quarterback really fast in this league. And so you got to give credit to him. But also, you know, with the offense, I think they settled in. You know, they got the run game going. And that's one thing you can look at is Harvey and JK, they came in and ran the ball well.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you, because when you're looking for positives, I think that's maybe at the top of the list. And Sean Payton tried to play it off as this was in his Monday conference. It was either his Monday conference call or Sunday postgame. He said that early on, when the ratio is 14-3 pass to run, that a lot of those calls, or a handful, were RPOs, and Bo checked to the pass because that's what he felt was going to be the most successful. We can understand that. You played with a quarterback that liked checking the passes in number 18, plenty. So yeah. I'll give Sean the benefit of the doubt to that at least. But he said, you know, he's got to install or call more run-to-run options in the second half. And I know Harvey's 50-yarder really helped. But we saw J.K. Dobbins break out for that touchdown. We saw the Harvey 50-yard run, longest run play by a running back in a few years since Latavius Murray, who came over from Sean Payton in New Orleans back then. When you look at
I don't like
the run
that
game
right there. Yeah, I don't know if I like that comment, because is he saying that Bo's not reading the RPO right?
No. He's saying that because he called RPO and pass was the right call, Bo went to pass. But then it wasn't necessarily successful. So the look the defense was giving him was, oh, this run's going to run into the line of scrimmage. Let's pick up some yards in the pass. So he wasn't saying that it was the wrong read by Bo. We know Sean's going to do this until Bo reaches a certain status. he's gonna jump in front of the train for his QB. He's saying it was his fault for putting him in that position to give him an RPO when it should have been run to run option, and that way there's no check to a pass.
Or have a better pass route, right? Or a better option for Bo in that situation. If they're crowding the line and the numbers are in the box are saying to throw the RPO pass, give me a great route or a great option to be able to distribute the football. But you got to be clear when you say statements like that, because then people out here, when I hear that, I might think, okay, did he read the RPO right? And I'm glad you were able to clear that up. So really that falls on Coach Payton, being able to have a better offensive game plan for your quarterback, to have better options and better success. And but one thing we do know is that we got to continue let's lead with that run, man. The run looked good.
Yeah, and that was it was a long way of me getting there, but can you expound on that a little bit before we jump to the other side of the ball? What did you see in the run game that you liked? Because we know what a healthy Dobbins can do, and certainly Harvey showed us some of that breakaway speed. Although I wanted to see a house call.
Yeah. I mean, the way Harvey broke out through the hole, I mean, that's something that we've been needing. We needed a guy that's, we've had a little scat back guys, but now we get a guy that's stronger and he has that breakaway speed. I mean, that's something that we needed. We needed some type of big play because we weren't capable of getting those in the passing game. So Harvey's big play came at the right time. And the same thing with J.K. Dobbins. His run, being able to cut back and find a little crease through the hole, break the tackle. He's still just getting warmed up, I think. I think he's still, finding himself in this system, getting more comfortable. And I think he's going to end up being the top guy, the top running back on the team. So as he continues to learn the learn the offense and learn this playbook, I see him as being an impact guy for sure as the season goes on.
All right, let's jump to that other side of the ball, though, because they were so dominant. And we might as well start with the best player, not just on the defense, on the team, best defensive player in the league. I had a chance Tuesday to do a bunch of charity stuff with PS2. You were doing We're the Harrises and handling some of your other stuff. But Pat did a really cool thing where he donated his third inspiration room, $50,000 to a local high school. And this one was really healthcare focused. They're going to train the future EMTs and PAs and doctors. So it's really cool up at Arvada High School. But then we did the kind of meeting, the pitch meeting, kind of like Shark Tank, where schools for next year came. And so I got to MC that and then sat down with Pat for about 15 minutes. You can find that whole chat at Guerrilla Sports. But, I asked him about that dominant performance with 6 different guys getting to the quarterback, 6 sacks, the strip sack from J-Mac, and the scoop that probably could have been a score if Jade Barron wanted to, but he went the smart play. So let's hear from PS2, and then I want to get your thoughts on this defense.
I think it's pretty cool to see all of it come together. And like I said before, we're not even close to our full potential. I think this is just a start, but for it to be a start and for us to be so dominant, I think it goes to show what can we be, later on. Just when we're healthy, we're all dialed in. We all flying around. We eliminate the mental errors. I know we had some mental errors in that game, but it may not seem like it because we was all flying around and attacking the football. But, it's pretty fun to be out there and, be on a defense that's hungry, determined, and has so much, fight in them at the end of the day. I think with that, especially with our front, that's where it starts. Them boys causing havoc by the front, causing havoc on, opposing quarterbacks and opposing offenses. You definitely got a game plan around that. Not only that, with how smart our linebackers are, they run field to field. And then our secondary, I think we've been able to develop a unique bond to where we all know our strengths. We all know how to communicate to each other and sort of fly around on the field, which is pretty cool and unique. So.
Well, that dude is off to as good a start as any DB could be. We've only seen 6 corners win Defensive Player of the Year. He has as good a chance as there's ever been to be the first to win 2 of them. Before we get to the defense, I'd love your thoughts on PS2, because he reminds me of Champ in a lot of ways. He's a little taller, obviously. But what do you think of PS2? And then let's talk about this defense real quick.
You got to kind of put this kid in his own, his own lane, really. When you have a guy 6'2", 6'3", You know, that's way bigger than Champ, way bigger than me, and you know, that's bigger than Talib. You know, this guy is a big corner, man, that can move and he's fluid and he's a technician. And when you have a guy that's a leader like him and the way he's galvanized all those young guys, and then we got all the vets on the D line that are coming, and Benito and Zach Allen, John Franklin, all those guys. You know, there's too many of them to name them all. And that win versus the Titans is kind of reminded me of a Super Bowl 50 win, right? Where the offense is struggling a little bit, but you know, they had to overcome some turnovers, but the defense was able to step up and make huge plays to win the game and kind of close it. And that's kind of what it felt like versus the Titans. And I think sometimes as fans, you can kind of get spoiled. Like, man, we want to win by 30 every week. And we want to kill this team, especially on offense. And it's not going to be pretty like that every week, right? You know, you might win 10 games just like that in a season. So that's one thing I did like, that they came out with a dominant fashion, no matter who the competition is. Okay, we're playing a rookie quarterback. We're going to make him look like a rookie quarterback. And that's what they're able to do and, you know, solidify that victory.
All right, before we go into the film room and look at Riley Moss, I want to just zero in on one defensive player. And you mentioned you were talking about all the guys up front and Nick Benito. And if we're watching Thursday Night Football, you see what Micah Parsons does. Our pal Vaughn isn't what he was when he was Super Bowl 50 MVP or even when we got to LA. We know he still got some burst, but he's not there. Nonetheless, Vaughn is considered a closer. Micah Parsons, a closer. Nick Benito finished fourth in the league in sacks last year, was in the Defensive Player of the Year voting, and is clearly on the ascent. Might even be a bargain. Is he in that category with Myles Garrett, with TJ Ward, of a closer that in the fourth quarter, you know that if you need a big stop on a third and whatever, fourth and whatever, that Nick Benito is going to be the guy to get home?
Oh, he's ascending there. His stock is up for sure. He's definitely coming in that conversation, right? And he's been doing it over, you know, the last 2 years. And you got to do it for like 3 or 4, you know, to be in those guys' conversation. But I think he's definitely on the rise, and he's definitely showing that he should be up there in the conversation. But to say he's at their level yet, I still want to see him doing some more, right? But he's definitely trending in the right direction. I don't think we got him at a bargain at all. You know, I think they got him for a great deal, great deal for both sides. He's going out there and showing it, and I just love the way he plays, man. But the way he gets off the ball. It is very similar to Von Miller, right? The way he gets off that snap, you know, you got to put him in the top 2 or 3. You know, it's probably out of Parsons and Benito getting off the ball, right? So his start is definitely off the charts.
Yeah, that was something that VJ talked about last week. Vance Joseph, defensive coordinator, said that because I last year I asked him to compare him to Vaughn before that Bills game. He said he didn't want to do that yet. So now we fast forward ahead. And I said, and he's like, Vaughn's different. Vaughn was more powerful. And he said, but Nick's bend is even crazier. But the thing that separates him is, and VJ has not only coached Vaughn, he coached JJ Watt too, and some other really good players along the way.
Yeah.
He said that Nick has the best instincts. And you saw it on that very first play of the game where he almost took the handoff from Tony Pollard. You saw it in the Niners preseason game. And thinking about this game with the Colts, last year when he grabs the ball, it's technically a fumble recovery, but it was essentially a pick six. He did it not once but twice, but did it once against the Colts. Those are instincts that you really can't coach. That is something that when you combine it with the physical attributes, puts you in a rare category.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. And one thing I would say about Nick is underrated is his coverages, right? Whenever he does have to drop out in zone, you know, he usually does a great job and being in the right place. Sometimes he comes up with the ball. Right, he has a lot of interceptions on his resume, so I'm excited to see him continue to play. Zach Allen is a force. You know, John Franklin is a guy that you know is always underrated, but he's going to do his job. DJ in the middle at the nose guard is going to do his job. So up front, they're elite, right? It's not a lot of teams that have a nice rotation like that. And those guys are veterans. They have a lot of experience. And they you know, they're playing together as one. So I love what we got up front, what the Broncos have up front. And then if the secondary, you know, it's pretty much on them. They got to go out there and play ball every week, play at an elite level. And I think because you're going to have a pass rush there every week.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a great friend. I know that you talk about pass rush and coverage work together, but they really do. And having the best secondary in the world is great. But if no one's getting home, you can't cover for 7 seconds. And if they're getting home, but no one can cover, it doesn't really matter if receivers are beating those DBs. So for all the fanfare that PS2 gets, and Jahdae Barron's a first-round pick, and I hadn't thought about it until right now, but my math tells me, did Bradley Roby come in your third year or fourth year?
My fourth year.
Your fourth year, but either way,
yeah,
you were pretty well established. Nonetheless, he comes along, and I'm sure you're thinking, okay, wait, and that was the same year I guess y'all signed to leave. So you're like, okay, let's do the math on this. All I know, and I asked Sean about it. I asked Pat about it as well. I don't know if I asked Riley, but Jahdae Barron's arrival has raised the play of both Riley and J-Mac. And look, they're figuring out ways to use Barron, and maybe at some point he does start outside and Riley comes in, and just like with you and Roby. But right now, Riley's got that job. And I thought he really jumped out to me. I know you've got some plays here. We're going to go into the film room with Chris Harris Jr., one of the all-time best film watchers. I think that sat in that building over there where Broncos train at Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. Take us into the film room at some of the plays from Riley Moss that you saw, including what he was able to do when it wasn't even on the ball necessarily.
Yes, sir. Riley Moss, man, he was playing aggressive. He played confident, and that's what I like to see. You know, I want to see improvement. And this is a great play coming up, you know, overpowering the receiver. He's going inside, but he makes the play, right? Coaches tell us if you go inside, you got to make the play. And him to be able to react fast right here is very impressive. That's the type of reaction you need in your secondary. You would usually like the nickel to react to that. Usually I would make that play, right, as a nickel. But for Riley to come up and make that play and not let him get outside, that was great read and great physicality. And we need that all year. That was beautiful.
Yeah, he said he put on weight in the offseason. It looks like it showed on that play. If you're going to drive through another blocker to make that play. And then it wasn't back-to-back plays. There was a down in between, but in the third quarter, he obviously was great in coverage. What at times you thought, you know, everyone's looking for a flag, but I thought his coverage on these plays was pretty good. So let's see. I think it was 1st and 10 was a situation. 1st and 20 maybe. But Riley Moss showing his I guess ability to close here, right? Let's see. This was down the right sideline, down the east sideline.
Okay, 1st and 20. I see we're doing a 5-man pressure, so we're probably in man, right? Riley Moss being able to play man one-on-one on the outside. And we lost a lot of those battles last year. So now to see him come back and challenge, be square, finish through the pocket of the catch. Let's look at his feet work. He's square. He puts hands on him at the right time, looks back at the perfect time. I mean, that's excellent football. If he can play discipline like that, play square, play with technique, ride him to the sideline, because the kid has great size, right? When people that have never seen Riley Moss, and you can see him in person, he has long arms, right? He can definitely be able to get hands on receivers, but he has to have that consistency to make that play down the field, right? And him playing like right there, those last 2 plays, you know, that's definitely shows improvement from last season.
Well, and so then two plays later, it's now I think 3rd and 20. And as we jump over to the last play we'll show you from Riley, watch him in coverage here down on the other sideline.
Right, great finish on the ball, right? I think his down the field play is definitely improved. What I didn't like is that he's inside very heavy, and he let the receiver stem him inside. Because a good receiver, that could be a touchdown.
Yeah, they're going to get more separation is what you're saying?
Yeah, they're going to get more separation. You see how he's weaving inside? I don't like that, because you have your whole defense inside. I got a safety standing right there on the numbers, right? So I would tell Riley I would play more outside of this guy, squeeze him back into my help. Even though you made a great play down the field, this is an easy play for you where you don't even have to strain like this.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I would say to him. Know where his help is. He has a safety sitting right inside of him. Right. Play a little bit outside and use your help, but it's still a great play.
Well, you talk about better receivers. Let's jump to the other side of the ball. or the other side of the field. And let's look at the Colts, who have, I think, better playmakers. Well, I don't know what Calvin Ridley is anymore, and pairing with Cam Ward, so I don't know. But we saw last week with Michael Pittman and with Pierce, and we know Downs can make plays, and Tyler Warren, that the Colts are a different animal. What's your initial thoughts on the Colts?
I mean, they play the Dolphins, and it's hard to get a good read on the Dolphins of where they're at, the state of their team. But they came out and played great. You know, Daniel Jones was very efficient. You know, he spread the ball around. I don't think he had high numbers of touchdowns, but, you know, the guy, he didn't make mistakes like he has in the past. So for them, I think they're feeling good. They have some confidence going on in him. They have an experienced quarterback finally. So I think this team, they feel like they can win every game. I don't think they trust Anthony Richardson. So I think they got a little swagger with Daniel Jones, and they're a much improved team.
Well, let's why don't we go into the film room? You know, I went behind enemy lines with Stephen Holder from ESPN.com. We'll do that after we go into the film room, maybe just to close out the show. But let's go into the film room of the Colts, because you mentioned, you know, Tyler Warren, who I think is, Sean Payton always talks about that joker. Tyler Warren qualifies as a joker, a guy that is either a tight end or a running back that is a problem for defenses, a mismatch for defenses. And he cites whether it's Jimmy Graham or Darren Sproles or Reggie Bush or Alvin Kamara, but someone who puts a strain on your defense. He thinks Evan Ingram is that here. Tyler Warren, who was a Wildcat quarterback at Penn State, he may have even lined up in the backfield last week for the Colts at one point. What do you think of him? We're about to go into the film room and see his first catch as a pro, I believe. But the big kid out of Penn State, just what kind of matchup problem will he be for the Broncos and everybody?
Yeah, this is a set Shane Steichen's always used. You know, this is a route they used to run with Gates, right? Try to sneak him out on 7, sneak him out on wheel routes like this. And it's something that the Broncos are going to definitely have to be aware for this formation. The corner's going to have to pass that off and fall off underneath that switch route. It's a quick switch. You got a quick pass, right? And the backside safety the middle safety has to take that post. So that's just different ways that Coach Steichen is going to be able to try to draw up plays for this guy. They're looking for specific coverages. Specifically, they want cover 4 and hoping that corner stays with that post and it clears out just like that. But, you know, Coach Vance Joseph runs everything. They run a lot of man. They run zone blitzes. They run palms. They run different sorts of cover 4. And so it's going to be in that specific look. When they do see it and they do get the look they want, you can definitely see that play right there, that formation coming up this weekend.
All right, we may not do it today, but one of these football Fridays, and maybe we'll do it even next week. You got to go through what each coverage really means so we can show people what palms means, what the different coverages are. Because you'll hear an analyst say it, and sometimes they'll explain it, but a lot of times they may not. You'll just hear zone versus man, or you'll hear cover 2, but you don't even know everyone's responsibility.
We might have to have a class, man. Coverage learning with Strap, man. Come on, let me teach you.
Let's do it. Strap Harris will take us into the classroom. We'll get on the whiteboard. But before we get to these other two plays here, real quickly, Brock Bowers is somebody the Broncos are going to see twice a year for a long time, and certainly qualifies as a joker. There's plenty of people that think the Broncos could have taken him last year at 12 and then traded back in and gotten Bo in the 20s. In the first round. They obviously didn't.
Yeah.
It's too early after one game to call Tyler Warren the next Brock Bowers or a Brock Bowers clone. But for a guy that I know he finished with 7 catches, and I was double checking his yards, but to have that debut, first rounder, a lot of people liked him. I know the Broncos liked him. 5 catches, 57 yards, targeted 6 times. Is he the person that most concerns you outside of Jonathan Taylor? VJ talked about Jonathan Taylor is really what gets them going. But as good as these other receivers are that we're about to see, is Warren the one that would concern you the most Sunday?
Yeah, but just because we're banged up a little bit at the linebacker position. So if I'm a team, I'm attacking these guys with the running backs and with the tight ends and try to see if I can exploit the Broncos defense in that way. So if I'm right on point with VJ, right? Taylor is definitely a guy that can scare us. That can kill us in the run game and also in the pass. And so that's how the coach should attack the Broncos, try to, check out the linebackers, check to see if they can cover my tight end. And, when you play against the Shane Steichen, his offense he has to have a good tight end. That's been his offense his whole career in the league. He's always had a solid tight end. So he's gonna, that's why they drafted this guy in such a value position in round 1, because he needs a playmaker like him for his system to thrive. So I can see him getting a lot of action this week, and that's a position that we're gonna have to look at, the linebackers versus tight end this week.
VJ's defenses, when you played in them here, and part of it was you were going against Travis Kelce at least twice a year, but you guys at times would struggle against tight ends, and you're only as good as your personnel. So I'm not trying to pick on your teammates necessarily, but last year VJ's defense was, I think, number 1 in yards per catch allowed to tight ends. I think 8th overall in total yards. And now you add Hufanga to the mix. How much more equipped are they to be able to cover Brock Bowers the 2 times they see him, Tyler Warren this week, and some of these other dynamic tight ends that they're going to encounter?
Oh, much better. If they're in the top 10 with that stat last year, they should finish top 3 for sure this year. Hufanga is, I think he's probably been the best addition, right, to the defense. When you know how smart this guy is, he's going to put his face in everything. He wants to tackle. He loves contact, and he's just going to be a guy that's always in the right spot, right? You can never have guys that you can never have too many guys that you can trust, that you can count on, that's going to be in the position that the coach tells him to be at, right? And we can count on him to do that and be physical and hit. So I think they're very equipped to be able to cover tight ends this year. But you never know, if the offense is able to find a matchup to get the linebackers on them. That's where I'm saying it could be a little leaky for our defense.
Yeah, it was funny. Bo Nix on Wednesday said, I think Hufanga had every tackle in the first quarter. And that's because he was wearing a Bo Nix t-shirt pre and post game to prop his QB up. And look, you played it not just here, you played a couple different places. I can't think of, other than when Peyton and I guess maybe DeMarcus came in, Hufanga comes in and was voted a captain in his first year here. That says something about who he is character-wise to win over your teammates that quickly, doesn't it? To not be the quarterback that we understand a rookie QB gets it too. But what's that say?
I mean, that's very impressive, especially on it's not like it's a young defense all the way, right? You got a lot of veterans on that defense. When you look at Zach Allen, DJ Reed, Singleton, Pat, these guys have been there for a while, and then Hufanga comes right in and beats the captain. That shows that he's a leader on the field, off the field. Guys love his energy. He's a coach out there on the field, even in the classroom. So this has been pretty much an A++ pickup. Really, the last 2 safeties, right? I love Jones. Jones is a great player out there on the field. He was a guy that didn't get fully all the respect that he needed in Miami, and he's came here and was able to take on the opportunity and show that he's a starter in this league. So the last 2 years have been great pickups at the safety position.
Yeah, here's a fun fact, and I actually saw Brandon Jones. He was walking to his car as I was leaving Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, after practice today. This is the 20th straight season, going back to Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver, that there's been someone named Brandon on the team. And there's been a couple stretches where you had 2 Brandons, whether it was Brandon Marshall and Brandon Lloyd, the receivers. Of course, your Super Bowl 50 team with Brandon Marshall, the linebacker, and B-Mac, of course, who we saw last night get a win for the Packers as their kicker. So 20th straight season, at least one player named Brandon on the roster. Brandon Jones keeping that streak alive. Doesn't mean much to everyone, but when your name's Brandon, like mine is, it's something worth noting.
They're keeping that. Do we still have that undrafted streak going on too?
It got broken. It got broken once, but then it was only once. I don't remember whether it was one of Vic's years or with Hackett, but it's basically it's like 21 of 22 or something. And it was continued this year with Karene Reed, the linebacker, who kept that streak going. But yeah, you were part of it. Wesley Woodyard, who I saw a few weeks ago out here at camp, and we could go down the list of not only undrafted players to make the team, but make an impact. CJ Anderson, who of course was a big part of what y'all did in Super Bowl 50. Let's do these last 2 clips in the film room and get your prediction. I'll let you get out of here because I know that you have a previous engagement and you don't want your wife to be
check
out my shirt. You see my shirt?
I can't see it. Oh, that's nice, man. Where you get that at, man?
What are you talking? I thought you made these.
Did I?
I didn't know. These have been in our studios, in our offices for a year, since last year when they honored you on the field and then you waved at the crowd. We just had this stack of T-shirts. I thought you made these.
My wife probably made it then. I don't, she probably made
First
those
time I wore it. It
without
says no fly zone. Looks like Top Gun. It's cool. I don't know if I'll ever wear it again, but I thought for our first show. But here, let's look at these Colts receivers real quick. So in the second quarter, we saw Michael Pittman, whose dad actually finished his career here with the Broncos after being a running back for a long time. I think it was right before you got here, if my math is right. And he is built way different than his son. He's built like a bulldog, like a weightlifter. And Michael Pittman has the longest neck, maybe this side of Merton Hanks. But this is Pittman, I think, as we're going to look in the second quarter, he was able to score on I think it was 21 yard or 27 yard gain. So we're digging into the film room. We're juggling the clips. But here we go. Here's Michael Pittman Jr., who I think has a lot of talent if you can get somebody to throw him the ball.
Oh, yeah. You know, it was just a great read by Daniel Jones. Poor play by the safety. They're in cover 2. And I would say poor play even by the corner, right? When we have receivers, all corners that listen, if you have a receiver, he's already inside the numbers. He's already rewriting himself. So that corner should probably slough off, give a little depth, right? And so he can play a little bit under this go ball. And when he
stumbles too. He stumbles on his break.
The guy still gets wide, right? Touchdown. That's a great read by Daniel Jones. And also, if you're Bo Nix, you better hope you get a cover 2 like this week, even though that's the Dolphins. That's why they got killed so bad. They're playing cover 2 in the red zone like this. But you know, that's an easy pitch and throw for them guys. But we just have to be smart in our zone coverages. Daniel Jones, he's very comfortable when he can see the coverage easy like that.
All right, and then one more play. This was, I think, their biggest play, their most explosive play on the field. And it's worth noting, by the way, 7 times they got the ball, whether they received a punt or took it away. All 7 times they ended drives with points. It hasn't happened since they've been tracking this, since I was born in 1978, the year that they started keeping track of this, that a quarterback, whether it be Tom Brady, your old teammate Peyton Manning, John Elway, no quarterback has ever ended every single possession with points until Daniel Jones did it on Sunday. The final one was a 36-yarder to Alec Pierce. So if we can get that in the film room here, you can tell us why this worked for Pierce and what he was able to do stretching the field.
Right. This is the concept everybody runs, right? They run a deep over and a go ball, tight splits. And it's just really terrible technique by the corner. He jumps inside, gives the guy a free release outside, and it's just poor technique in man-to-man coverage. I don't know why the guy is just jumping inside. So Riley Moss, Pat Surtain gonna have solid technique and be able to run with this guy. The speed is not there. They can run with him, but you can't jump inside and have poor technique like this guy. They're gonna get deep over route on the backside, which is a common route that they'll see, especially in 12 personnel packages. 12 personnel means 1 running back, 2 tight ends. So you're going to see that a lot. Deep go balls and a deep over route on the backside from the field. So that's something that I know Pat and Riley will be ready for. Play action. That's always been a Daniel Jones staple. He loves to play action also. But they just got to have proper technique. That play right there was, made not because the receiver is so great, but because the terrible technique by the corner, just jumping inside. So I expect the Broncos guys to play a lot better than him.
All right, a couple things for let you get out of here. When you look at what Daniel Jones is able to do well, you have to go back to, because you talk about play action, him running the ball. He took the Giants to the playoffs just a couple of years ago, and it was downplayed by Sean Payton. It was downplayed by VJ yesterday. I even asked Evan Ingram today. But Davis Webb, and Sean was one who told us this story when he hired Davis Webb as the quarterback's coach. That Davis Webb on Fridays would take Daniel Jones into the indoor there with the Giants and walk through the game plan the way an assistant coach, a quality control coach might, because his dad's a coach. We know Davis wanted to be a coach. Davis started the final regular season game of that 2022 season because they were locked into the playoff spot. Then Daniel Jones starts in the playoffs and they lose. With Davis having been around Daniel Jones every day for a couple of years, because Evan Ingram says he didn't even talk to any of his defensive players about Daniel Jones. How much do you think, in terms of knowing what Davis's tendencies are or where his muscle memory takes him, can be an advantage, even if VJ's downplaying it and Sean's downplaying it? We didn't even talk to Davis, but Davis having that knowledge of a player like that from just a couple of years ago, the last time he was really playing well, how much can that help?
I mean, it's going to help just a little bit, but at the end of the day, we always say football is going to tell the truth, right? The eye in the sky doesn't lie. And we got, what year is this for Daniel Jones?
2019 was his rookie year, so year 6.
Year 6, right? We got 6 years of tape on this guy. Plenty of football to know what his tendencies are, what he likes to throw, where he, excels at. And with Daniel Jones, we'll take any tips going into the game. Right, but when it's time to play, a lot of those things go out the window anyways, right? That's probably why they're downplaying it. But, he's with a new offensive coordinator. He's in a new environment. The team's rallying around him. They had a good start. Maybe this might be the right place for him. And good luck to him on that. But, he has a tough battle this week, and this is going to be the ultimate test for Daniel Jones. Let's see if he's really the guy to be in Indy. And not a better, it's a better defense to go against than, the Denver Broncos showing up, going against him, giving the ultimate test. The D-line is going to be humming. You got all pros and Pro Bowlers in the secondary. It's going to be a tough matchup for them. So I'm excited to see this game.
All right, so the Broncos, believe it or not, are 2.5-point favorites, and maybe you do believe it because we think that top to bottom, that's a better roster. And also, you want to see Daniel Jones prove it. And real quick on that, the Dolphins have a players-only meeting after week 1. That feels pretty unheard of, and I like Mike McDaniel a lot. He's from Denver. He obviously has ties to the Shanahans forever. He's always been cool to me. I don't know how Mike's going to survive this season unless they go on some miracle run, and Chris Greer's time as a GM may be done. But have you heard a players-only meeting after week 1?
Yeah. Now, I've never seen that happen. We actually had I think my time in Denver, I think we had one in preseason. I think we got killed one day in the preseason. And after that, we had a players only meeting after that. And then we trying to squash that pretty fast before the season started. But, I don't think he'll make it. The Dolphins look terrible on film. Their defense looks like they're lost. The offense isn't working anymore, and they brought this guy in for offense and to be the quarterback whisperer. And his quarterback Tua that they paid $100 million is, he's looking very mediocre right now. So it's going to be hard for them for that guy to make it and last this season. But also, I want to talk about the Colts defense before we head out. Bo's got they're playing very good, and to add veteran guys, I think is Ward out.
Ward's out with a concussion. He was ruled out.
That's a big loss right there. Being able not to have him and then Howard looked very good the first week. So, Howard came back and played solid. I don't know who they're going to have in for Ward, but, that's a major loss for the Colts right there. But Howard, Kenny Moore, and Ward was going to be a tough matchup for the receivers. So, but I think the Broncos now with Ward out have the advantage at that. So they definitely could take advantage of the guy who's replacing Ward with Cortland. That's what I would try to attack.
Yeah, well, and Jalen Jones is out too. So the only 2 players ruled out are Jalen Jones and obviously Travaris Ward, and then questionable for the Colts, Tyler Goodson, one of the running backs, and then keep an eye on because he made a bunch of plays, but defensive end Latu also questionable, and then the Broncos just. No surprise, but Dre Greenlaw, they're being extra cautious with that quad injury that he re-aggravated for a 3rd time on Labor Day. Do you got a score prediction for Sunday in Indy where the Broncos are 2.5-point favorites?
I got them winning 21-13.
Okay.
21-13.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And if they keep Jonathan Taylor in check, yeah.
I want to keep teams under. I think that's their goal is try to keep teams under 15, under 20. And I think Daniel Jones isn't putting 20 points on this defense. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. Are there any other games over the weekend, real quick, before I let you run? Our Jayhawks are off. Buffs are in Houston tonight. I know that if your schedule would have allowed it, you would have gone down to see Coach Prime, but Buffs are in Houston tonight. I think that'll be a tough one. But you got Ravens Ravens are at home. You got Chiefs Eagles Super Bowl rematch.
Yeah.
Uh,
I got the
Chargers.
Eagles. I got the Eagles winning that.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs. I
Yeah.
think, but
You
I
got
won't
the
be
Chiefs
surprised.
winning?
I won't be surprised. I just feel like I don't know. Maybe it's because I listened to Travis Kelce's podcast with his brother and Kevin Hart and Rob Riggle yesterday. That got me thinking, like, okay, maybe they're going to bring it. It doesn't count as a makeup for the Super Bowl, just like when y'all scored. Peyton threw 7 touchdowns against the Ravens. That didn't make up for losing the playoff game.
Nah, it definitely didn't, but it felt good though for sure to get that payback. But I can definitely see. I just hope this is the end of the KC run. You know, I just hope this is the end. I hope they start out 0-2, and you know, Broncos started out 2-0. I wouldn't be happy if everybody in the AFC West won. Right? Just let's keep those guys 0-2 going into week 3. You know, I'll be happy with that.
Well, and look, Monday, unless it ends in a tie, you're gonna have one of the second of the 2 Monday night games, Chargers at Raiders. We saw a really inspired
they play
effort
this
from the
week?
Chargers.
Okay, so that game, that's going to be a pretty good game, but I'm going to go with the Chargers on that one.
Yeah, we want to see it from Vegas. It's one thing to go beat a rebuilding New England team, although they still flew across the country and beat them pretty soundly. And then I guess because you're down there in Dallas, the Giants are without both of their starting tackles against the Cowboys, and they only scored 6 points last week.
I think it's the end of Russell. You know, Russell's at the end of his time. You know, where it's okay to be a backup. You know, it's okay. You know, you can buy yourself extra 5 years. You know, Joe Flacco was a backup, right? And then what did he eventually do? He's starting now.
Yeah.
Right. And how old is he? 40 something? He's 40 out there.
41.
Starting.
Yeah.
Right. So quarterbacks, they get a chance after chance after chance, you know, to be able to stay in this league. So, you know, it's not the end of Russell in the NFL, but I don't think he should be, you know, starting anymore.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be his fault if they don't have those tackles. All right, Chris, this was a lot of fun. I'm going to let you run. I'm going to go behind enemy lines with Stephen Holder here next.
Yes,
but next Friday, we'll get into maybe some more detail on what the different coverages mean, and we will look at what is hopefully a 2-0 Broncos team heading to LA to take on another former team of yours in the Chris Harris Bowl. This is Peyton Manning Bowl this weekend, Colts and Broncos, but Broncos Chargers is the Chris Harris Bowl next weekend. So appreciate it's a lot of fun, and I will see you next week, bud. Thanks so much.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Later.
All right, and that's Chris Harris Jr. You can catch him on We're the Harrises, of course. That's every Tuesday with Ryan Harris and, of course, our very own Shelby Harris Jr. Still with the Browns, but a big part of a lot of the stuff we do here as one of the co-founders here with us, really at Guerrilla Sports. All right. Earlier today, I got a chance to talk to Stephen Holder. I'm going to bring you a little bit of that conversation from ESPN.com. He's as plugged in as anybody to the Colts. And, you know, I mentioned when we were talking to Chris that we saw the Colts do something with Daniel Jones that no starting quarterback's ever done, and that's score on every single drive. So you can't really be better than that. But I asked him to start the conversation. Is this the Daniel Jones that will we see more of this Daniel Jones, or was that the best he'll be? And then he'll go back to Daniel Jones. Is there more to come?
Well, I mean, expect pretty high bar, right? But I would say if they got the same or at least a similar level of production, the Colts would be thrilled. Okay, because I mean, listen, I thought there was a scenario where Daniel Jones could succeed here. I don't think that was ever really out of the question. I mean, this is a different situation than he had with the New York Giants for most of those years there. But I still think the jury was very much out. Okay, there were days in training camp where I just was kind of like, you kind of shrugged, you know, like, I don't know, is this going to work? And there were days when, frankly, Anthony Richardson was better, as good or better. There were many days like that, right? So this wasn't such an obvious thing on the field. I think what won him this job was some of the things you saw on Sunday, which was his ability to get the ball out, placement of the football, allowing him to maximize, allowing the receivers, frankly, to maximize their ability to run after the catch. Look who he's throwing to. Tyler Warren. Oh my God, this guy's rumbling down the field. Okay, big guy, sure-handed, trying to tackle him in the open field, very difficult. Michael Pittman, same thing, right? He's a big guy to bring down. A guy like Josh Downs, shifty, you can shed tackles, really elude them. So Daniel Jones, And I don't know if this is maybe a backhanded compliment, maybe, but look, I think what he is a point guard. His job is to see the matchups, get the ball out, let guys do their job, and he did it fabulously. Almost 9.5 yards per attempt on Sunday. His career average is like 6.5. So I mean, that was just a spectacular performance based on the expectations for Daniel Jones. Look, this week will not be as easy. That is very clear. But for 1 week, I think they got the best of Daniel Jones here.
Well, and he wasn't pressured like he was in New York, right?
Mhm.
We know that as much as we love Bradley Chubb and what they're trying to do in Miami, it's not the same defense that he's going to see this week when you're talking about 63 sacks a year ago, 6 sacks, albeit against a rookie QB, but from 6 different players. Nick Bonito, 9 pressures and 22 dropbacks, 5 of them in under 2.5 seconds. How do they combat this Broncos defense with not just that front, but good linebacker play and certainly guys on the back end like PS2 and Talanoa Hufanga, who, as Bo Nick said on Wednesday, I thought he had every tackle in the first quarter when I watched the film, and he's playing like the All-Pro we saw a couple of years ago in San Fran. So how do they slow this Broncos D down?
Oh, he's a hell of a safety, by the way. Just really fun to watch, too. But anyway, I would say this will be a huge test for this offensive line. You've got 2 new starters, okay? Keep that in mind. They acquitted themselves fabulously in week 1. They allowed 6 pressures in that game. Daniel Jones was pressured 6 times out of, I think, 30 some dropbacks, right? So, I mean, that's what you're talking about. That's perfect. Now, that's in his career, he's averaged about 13 pressures per game, 13 dropbacks. So he can operate much more comfortably. And when you pressure Daniel Jones, you get a different player. Okay. That has been documented in his career. So in this game, I think this is a big test for the Colts. Can they hold up? Can they give him that same comfort level heading into this game? We don't know the answer. And we're going to find out a little bit more about this offensive line. And look, they are very, I mean, hyper aware of Surtain coming into this game, and I would be surprised if he sees a lot of action in this game. I don't think they're going to test him. So Daniel Jones is not really the kind to go test the other teams. Elite, all pro corner. That's not his game. His game is to get it to where the favorable matchups are, and that ain't one.
On the other side of the ball, beyond Zaire Franklin, not necessarily a bunch of household names, but a really good defense. Denver is now stacked with household names. When you add Hufanga, you add Greenlaw to the defensive player of the year in PS2. You mentioned Benito, Zach Allen, all pros. So people know this Denver D. They hear Vance Joseph in those head coach rumblings. And they also said they were looking at the Bengals defensive tape to get an idea of what Lou Anarumo likes to do. What can they do to make things hard for Bo Nix, who, unlike the Broncos D, didn't have the best week 1?
Yeah, I think you might see a lot of what you saw in week 1 against the Dolphins, which was just, I mean, a lot of unpredictable stuff. And we were just looking at a play earlier, my colleagues and I, that was hilarious. Okay, they had this 5 sort of the 4-man front, but with Zaire Franklin up at the line of scrimmage and blitzing with Leatu Latu, who's questionable coming into this, by the way. He's got a hamstring. We can talk about that, but that's a big factor in this game. But anyhow, they had DeForest Buckner, their Pro Bowl defensive tackle, had him out on the edge. They had Leatu Latu inside. They had just a whole mixing and matching. So they're twisting with Latu. They're blitzing Zaire Franklin. They're bringing Buckner off the edge. He never lines up on the edge, right? They're just doing all this craziness. And you could see Devon Achane in the backfield, like, I don't know who to block. I don't know who to block. And so it ended up being a disaster for Tua. He gets sacked on the play. Another play, you saw Latu drop into coverage, a zone drop, and Tua never expects him to be there,
Sure.
throws it right to him, you know? And so I just think the question is, should you expect? You should expect anything.
Yeah.
This is coming from the Gus Bradley scheme where, frankly, they were very predictable, right? So this is the opposite end of the spectrum, and he's going to have something for you. That's how Lou Anarumo is. One quick point, finally. Number 1 corner, Shavarius Ward, he's out.
Right.
He's got a concussion. He won't play. That's a huge loss for them.
It's always good catching up with you, both in this setting and certainly in person. But Stephen, I appreciate the time, and I will see you Sunday in the press box.
All right, you got it. Anytime, Brandon.
So there you have it. You can catch our entire extended breakdown because we got into what's going to happen if Steichen, with Shane Steichen, with Chris Ballard, if the Colts don't make a playoff run and don't show promise. And we know that the Anthony Richardson experiment to this point has been failed, even though we like the rest of their roster. So we got some of that, as well as some other fun stuff. So that'll be on our Guerrilla Sports YouTube page and our other social channels. I hope you had a lot of fun hanging out with us. It's just the first of what's going to be a season-long full of Football Fridays with Chris Harris Jr. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to bring it to you every Friday, ideally at 11 o'clock Mountain Time, but sometimes things change, but that's what we're shooting for. So set your clock, set your reminders. If not, you can certainly check us out across all of our Guerrilla Sports platforms that are out there and wherever you get your podcast as well. So thank you to Chris Harris Jr. Thanks to David Levine, who's executive producing this, as well as my man John on the other side of the glass. I am Brandon Krisztal, and we will see you next weekend. Oh, quickly, I think Broncos win 24-16. That is your final score. So Broncos cover and win 24-16 over the Colts. I'll be in Indy, and we'll have you covered post-game as well. So make sure you're just keeping track of everything we're doing here at Guerrilla Sports. But this has been the very first edition of many more Football Fridays with Chris Harris Jr. and Brandon Krisztal here at Guerrilla Sports.